Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and it's been said for some time that the issue that is basically guaranteed to split the Conservative Party in the UK is Europe. Always Europe. Any discussion of Europe amongst the Conservatives splits the party, but they're all united now, aren't they? Brexit got done, all united. You would think so, given that over 99% of Conservative MPs voted for Boris Johnson's Brexit deal. However, it's the nature of that deal that will still lead to a split in a few years' time, because the deal doesn't actually lay out a clear, definitive relationship with Europe that the government are claiming that it does. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, there are a number of features to the Brexit deal, and more details will emerge as more and more experts pore over it over the coming weeks and months. But the overriding feature that is of most interest to the Conservatives is that it allows the UK to diverge from EU standards should it wish to. The overall deal certainly represents one that gives the EU everything that it wanted and gives almost nothing that Boris Johnson promised that it would give the UK. But Brexit itself was never in the UK's interests. You know, if it were, we would never have left. It was just a political solution to a party political problem for the Conservatives. Boris Johnson needed a deal, but he couldn't accept a deal that would have tied us to EU rules because he'd have never got it past enough of his own MPs. Now, if Johnson did win anything this year with the deal, if he actually achieved anything, then it will be this. The deal doesn't mean we have to follow EU rules or standards. It allows us to diverge from them over time, if we wish to do so, to the extent we wish to do so, over whatever time period we wish to do so. But if we do this, then the EU are allowed to take corrective action, which would place tariffs and quotas on our goods again, basically. They could also be much more difficult with services. We don't really have protection for our service industry, which is by far the largest part of our economy, in the deal. The EU are going to do us a few favours, for want of a better word. They are going to be applying a lighter touch than they could do. It won't be so light a touch that we gain a competitive advantage, of course, but a lighter touch than they would have to. And if we decided to diverge from standards, well, all of a sudden they'll remove that lighter touch. And this has been pointed out many times. We only have tariff-free trade on goods because it's described, this deal, as, well, it gives us tariff-free trade with the EU on goods. It only does that as long as we stick to EU standards. So you can build the deal as, you know, in a simple way. Does it mean tariff-free trade in goods? Yeah. Does it mean we can diverge from EU standards? Yeah. But you can't do both at the same time. And what I want to point out is what happened when Keir Starmer of the Labour Party pointed this out in Parliament last week, because Boris Johnson's reaction was very telling for what he still fears for the future. So Starmer made a couple of relevant points here. The first is just that we only get tariff-free trade if we stick to these EU rules, or at least the relevant rules. Doesn't have to be all EU rules, of course. And Johnson at this point shook his head in disbelief at the statement. Now, why would Boris Johnson deny this? Not only is it very apparent from the agreement, that in a way that even I can understand by reading it, but Boris Johnson had said so in Parliament. He disguised the language. You know, he made out, oh, you know, if either side decides to do something that the other side's not happy with, then we can do these things. You know, as if it could work both ways. And then you see this tweet from a Tory peer that sheds some light onto why Boris Johnson will say that, yes, this agreement means that if we diverge from standards, it means the EU get to take corrective action, but he doesn't want to say it like that. He wants to deny it when someone else puts it like that. This tweet, and I'll quote, "The deal is merely a starting point from which we will need to work to establish our independence as a daily fact. It will be less and less relevant as our trade necessarily diverges from the EU, and in a few years we can jettison it. That's the aim." Now, what this Conservative is saying, now this Conservative isn't a particularly influential one, he's in the House of Lords, doesn't really have any influence at all. He doesn't represent a large faction of Conservatives or anything like that. But he's a Conservative Brexiteer, and this view will be shared across the party. And what he's saying is, we need the deal for now, because he presumably recognises that we can't just change our country to the post-Brexit utopia he thinks we're headed towards overnight. So of course we need the deal for now. He understands that the deal allows for as much divergence as we like, according to a speed that suits us. Now, before I follow that statement down to its natural conclusion, Starmer put something else to Johnson that's relevant to this. So in attacking the deal as a load of rubbish, he pointed out that Johnson had prioritised this concept of sovereignty throughout. The reason we got such a crap deal was because Johnson just kept prioritising this idea of sovereignty. And Starmer said it doesn't actually make sense for Boris Johnson to have prioritised that need to diverge our standards if he did not intend to do so. And as soon as he does, our businesses will face greater barriers to trade and be much less competitive because the EU will take action to force that. Now, remember that what has kept Brexiteers together throughout this, the whole process, is the promise that it'll be everything they want. Because you've got like Brexiteer A wants this thing from Brexit, Brexiteer B wants a different thing, and so on. And some of these Brexiteers want contradictory things, but they've all been told they can have it all. Do you remember at the start we were told we get all of the benefits of EU membership and none of the downsides? What an obvious sham! What an obvious sham to anything. I mean, they didn't even try doing something subtle like we can get most of the benefits and we won't really have loads of downsides. It'll all be worth it. No. All of the benefits, zero downsides. That's what was said. How dumb do you have to be to believe that? But plenty of people did. Plenty of people still do. Now, here's the thing. Brexiteers will split as soon as the reality of Brexit becomes apparent and they don't get what they want. Some Brexiteers will get what they want, others cannot. They can't because it's contradictory. As soon as Brexit meets reality, inevitably some people realise that they don't get what they wanted. Some of those realities have already taken place. It's early days yet. Fishing communities, for example, have seen that they've been used. They're not getting what they were promised. They were given specific promises. Do you know what? They've not got that. Now, actually, it's not quite true. They got what Remainers promised them. Brexit would deliver, but not what the Brexiteers who are actually in charge of the process promised. They're a little bit disillusioned now. Some Conservatives will be like the one who wrote this tweet. They see that the deal follows, it can follow a couple of paths, and they see the path they want to follow, which is to gradually diverge from the EU until there are no more ties at all. The deal allows for that, and that's what they want. But there will be other Conservatives. I mean, some of them won't have even wanted Brexit in the first place, or some of them would have wanted a very soft Brexit. But they accepted the routes they've taken to keep their party together, or maybe just their career on track. Maybe they're an MP that likes being an MP on the gravy train, and they just want to make sure they can keep their seat next time. So they wanted a Brexit that did as little damage as possible. They see this deal as being able to trade with the EU, free trade agreement, and just pretend to be more sovereign because they know full well if we exercise any of that sovereignty, then we become less competitive. They know we're not more sovereign as a result of this, but just the fact that we have the power to diverge, because we can say, we can diverge at any time. So if we happen to have any standards that just so happen to be in alignment with the EU, well, it's our choice to do it. And for many of them, that's enough sovereignty. That'll do. That's grand. Thank you very much. We don't actually have to exercise the power. We've got it. That's enough for us. For now, both sides can believe that this deal does what they needed it to. For those who just wanted it to be Brexit, so it's done, and everyone can be believing that, we can now do our own thing, and they can just carry on steering alongside the EU and trading with relatively little damage. Not to services, unfortunately, but for the others, it's like, right, we can veer off now. We're uncoupled from the EU. Off we go into the sunset. But there comes a point where the deal has to take us down one of those paths. And it'll be down one that the other side don't expect. So if the government maintains standards in order to not only keep relatively easy trade with the EU, but also importantly not expose the fact that actually Northern Ireland is now basically following the EU's lead more directly, then the side that wanted to diverge at a certain point isn't going to be very pleased. I mean, I don't know how long it will take for them to realise actually we're not diverging as we thought. But if divergence does occur, and of course our businesses bear the brunt of the consequences, then the other side will feel aggrieved, the ones that didn't want to completely trash the economy. And then there comes a point where it becomes apparent what the government are doing. Like I said, I don't know how long it will take before, if they diverge, then it's fairly obvious to the other side that that is happening. If they don't, if it is their plan to just carry on alongside the EU, then I don't know how long those who want to diverge will give it. But I'm willing to bet it's not going to be several years. You know, come the next general election, I'm quite sure they will have expected some movement. They may not even wait longer than a year. And there has to come a point, you know, essentially where Brexit in general does this. You know, we only managed to form this loose coalition of support by promising to deliver everything that all the disparate groups wanted, both within and outside the Conservative Party, which is why Boris Johnson is still in denial. He's still denying the realities of Brexit, even though they are now written down in international treaty documents, albeit not fully ratified yet because the EU Parliament have got to do their stuff. Because each reality represents a chunk of his support becoming aggrieved. So he wants to put off those realities as long as possible, and even when they emerge, he wants to keep denying them to try and fool as many people as possible that these realities don't actually exist. You know, the deal really is something of a political triumph for him in the regard that it's everything to everyone until you put it into action. Because even for those who will take the time to understand it, can see it promising these two very different paths. And I think that it's keeping people thinking it can go down either path that is keeping people on board at the moment. But that dual promise can't last forever. He or his successor will have to make a decision at some point. Maybe they already have. Maybe they're keeping their options open. I don't know. But there comes a point when they have to do something. And that will annoy part of their support. Or they have to do nothing, in which case at a certain time they annoy the other part of their support, the one that wants the divergence. And at that point, the old Tory arguments on Europe will flare up again. How can they not? How can they not? The only question now is which faction in the party will win. Now, I don't know the answer to that one because of the sheer number of new MPs that entered Parliament in 2019, who have not really yet made their opinions clear. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.